We trailed the Veiled Council up the terraces, keeping far enough back to avoid detection, but close enough to follow their progress through the ash and gloom. Every step felt like a gamble, a heartbeat too loud, a movement too sharp in the suffocating quiet. The ash storm had softened to a steady drift, but the air remained heavy, the weight of the moment thickening with every terrace we climbed. I glanced back at Dhalâra. Her eyes were wide, her lips drawn into a thin, pale line. She didn't speak, but tension rolled off her like a fever. Each time my foot slipped on the damp stone, she twitched, as if expecting some silent consequence to strike.
"You're sure about this?"
she whispered once, barely louder than the ash. Of course I am. Today the terraces felt endless. We climbed higher and higher into the temple, passing courtyards and dormitories, shrines and groves, rising toward the very highest tiers of the complex. With every step, I grew more certain Azura meant to take them to her sanctum at the temple's peak. The ash drifted lighter now, more mist than fall. Then we saw it. Azura wasn't leading the council toward her sanctum, but down into one of her 4 gardens below. Not the sealed-off garden, not the Forsaken Garden, or the Garden of Fickle Truths. No, of course not. The wielder of the Fang of Zeraven was guiding her entourage into the Garden of the Fatebreaker himself, the Garden of Rending Rain. Its gates stood open, iron vines curling into sharp, tangled patterns. Beyond them, the garden spread like a wound in the stone, dark, wild, glistening with an unnatural sheen. Dhalâra stopped short, eyes wide.
"She's bringing them there,"
she murmured, almost to herself.
"Why not up to her sanctum?"
I had no answer. My gaze was fixed on the garden. The council slipped through the gates, their flowing robes dissolving into the silver-drenched dark. For a moment we stood frozen, caught between awe and dread. Then, without a word, I seized Dhalâra's wrist and pulled her forward. We hurried across the ash-veiled courtyard, crouching low to stay unseen. The iron vines loomed above us as we slipped inside, and the garden's gloom closed around us like something alive. The garden felt hungry. Trees loomed high, their trunks bulging and bent like the bodies of drowned animals hauled upright. Water streamed like blood from wounds in their bark, running in restless paths that never dried, pooling around the roots. I flinched as one of those rivulets splashed against my leg, but I was careful not to make a sound. Thorn bushes crowded the garden paths, pressing inward as though they wanted to snag anyone mad enough to walk through. Dhalâra kept close behind me, every step measured. The ground shifted underfoot, mud over stone, sucking faintly with each careful movement. Rain seeped from the air itself, a damp pressure that crept into skin and cloth alike, weighing everything down. My cloak clung to me, heavy and cold, and I fought the urge to shiver. Something pale moved near my ankle. I froze. Leech-like creatures clung to the roots and stones, swelling as they drank before slipping back into the mud. I swallowed hard and lifted my foot slowly, praying none of them had found purchase on me. The high priestesses of the Veiled Council moved silently ahead, their figures shadowy and ethereal beneath the garden's eerie glow. Dhalâra and I followed at a distance, keeping low, hidden among the twisted foliage. The rain soaked through my cloak, cold, clinging, but I barely felt it. At last, the council came to a halt in a clearing at the heart of the garden. At its center stood the throne. I'd seen frescoes of it before. It was the Raven Dural's, the Throne of Thrones, or rather, an imitation of it, a replica meant to echo the seat said to rest in his hall of unmaking. In the shattered reaches beyond the veil, the throne here was carved from black stone, towering like a monument to something old and unspeakable. Its back rose in jagged spires, like claws reaching skyward, and its surface shimmered faintly in the dim light, as though veined with blood. Just looking at it made my heart pulse faster. And yet the stone was not untouched. Thorn branches had wound their way around its base and up its sides, biting into the black rock. In the deeper cracks, pale fungus swelled and glistened, and leeches clung to it in slow, pulsing clusters, feeding as water trickled down over them. Azura moved ahead of the others, her vine-draped robes trailing as she ascended the steps leading up to the throne's seat. Each movement was silent and absolute. At the summit, she turned to face the council. Then, with quiet finality, she sat. Beside me, hidden deep in the thorned undergrowth, Dhalâra inhaled sharply. I understood why. Azura hadn't just sat on any old chair. She had seated herself upon a replica of the Throne of Thrones, the seat of a god, a symbol meant to be revered, not touched, and yet she claimed it as though it was hers by right. We were already crouched at the edge of the clearing, pressed low behind the thorns, close enough to watch, yet far enough to remain unseen. Hopefully. Dhalâra stayed tight at my side, her body coiled with barely contained dread.
"We shouldn't be here," she whispered. "This is..."
"Shh," I hissed, my eyes fixed on the clearing. The council was speaking now, their voices low and blurred by the rain. I strained to catch the words, but they dissolved into murmurs before they reached us. Still, the tension carried, sharp and coiled, like a blade being drawn in the dark. Dhalâra shifted beside me, fingers tightening around a thorny branch.
"If they catch us..."
"Then I'll deal with it," I snapped, harsher than I meant to. I lowered my voice. "I have to know what she's doing. Please, Dhalâra. Trust me." Her jaw clenched, but she didn't argue. She sank even lower into the shadows, her hair disappearing into the wet, blackened foliage. I leaned forward, inch by careful inch, the thorns snagging at my sleeves as I crept closer. The voices were still indistinct. Too distant, swallowed by rain, but closer now than before. Dhalâra followed, trembling, until we slipped into another tangle of bushes nearer the clearing's heart. We crouched there, barely daring to breathe, looking up through dripping leaves. The high priestesses stood in a loose half-circle around the throne, their painted faces stark beneath the silver rain. One of them stepped forward. It was Sadhara. Her voice sliced through the garden like a lash.
"You've been absent for months, Azura. Ignoring summons, skipping council, abandoning your duties."
Sadhara stepped closer, her voice curling with scorn.
"You've been keeping secrets, acting alone, undermining this council. We want answers."
My heart went still. Azura. She hadn't been meeting them. Every time Azura had left the temple, every claim of council business had been a lie. I glanced at Dhalâra, Her face had gone pale, rigid. She'd realized it too. But Azura only looked amused. Reclining on the black throne, she brushed a finger along the armrest.
Is that so?
Don't play coy with me! You've been running your own little games, hiding things from us.
Azura didn't flinch.
If you are accusing me of something, Sadhara, then speak plainly.
Fine! You sent your worm, Dren Erisith, to kill one of my field agents, Parath Azureth. And ever since, you've vanished. Granted, you have always skipped meetings whenever it suited you, which is already pathetic for someone who calls herself our High Supreme. But these past 7 months, you haven't shown up once!
Azura tilted her head, but said nothing.
Don't pretend you don't know what I'm talking about!
Sadhara snapped.
Azureth is dead because of you! And after that, in Zaklash, the mutiny against me, don't deny it! I know that was you!
Do you have proof?
Azura asked coolly. Sadhara's face twisted with fury, but she did not answer.
As for Parath Azureth,
Azura went on.
His death was on you. You sent him to Blotzeth to interfere. You had him take something that was never yours, and so Erisith killed him. Blame yourself, Sadhara, not me.
The Grazian girl!
Sadhara spat.
She was mine.
No, dear Sadhara. Emilia never belonged to you. She is bound to a path I alone was meant to shape. How you learned of her arrival, I do not know. Why you thought it was wise to interfere before I could claim her, I understand even less. I've long known you to be reckless, but this is folly, even by your standards.
Sadhara bristled.
You dare to?
Yes, I dare.
Azura leaned forward.
Tell me, what was your plan? What would you have done with her if Erisith hadn't stopped you?
Used her!
Sadhara said without hesitation.
Her father, the Margrave of Voxenberg, would have watched his precious daughter return in pieces. A finger, a hand, an ear, until the colonizers pulled every last Imperial scum from Zaklash.
My stomach twisted.
And you think that would have worked?
Azura gave a soft, humorless laugh.
It wouldn't have scared them, Sadhara. It would have enraged them. They'd have razed your city to the ground, haunted your people through every mountain pass. You'd have signed your own death warrant.
Better to burn than to kneel.
And yet, here you are, not burning. I suppose you have me to thank for that.
Sadhara's voice rose, shrill with fury.
You're a coward, Azura! You always have been! You should have listened to Najera back then. At least she had the spine to fight for our people!
That seemed to have struck a nerve. At the sound of the name, Azura's composure fractured. Her fingers clenched around the throne's armrest, knuckles whitening.
Do not speak her name,
she said. Low, precise, deadly. Sadhara stepped closer.
Why not? Afraid of the truth? Afraid to realize that what we did to her, what you made us do to her, was a mistake?
What we did to Najera was necessary.
Azura hissed, rising from the throne. Her eyes blazed with cold fire.
She would have led Loch Lelesh to ruin.
The garden seemed to hold its breath. The air sharpened, drawn tight like a wire on the verge of snapping. I didn't dare move. Every muscle locked. waiting for the break. But before Dhalâra could answer, another voice cut cleanly through the tension.
Enough.
The High Priestess mocked and Violet stepped forward. Her voice was cool. She looked from Azura to Dhalâra, her gaze sharp enough to draw blood.
This bickering serves no purpose, she said. We came for answers, not to exhume old wounds.
Dhalâra shot her a glare, but fell silent. The violet-faced priestess ignored her and turned to Azura, her tone measured, controlled.
We did not come to question your absences. As you clearly know, we are aware of the Gratian girl. Daughter of Margrave Reuben von Lavenhugel of Foxenberg, is she not? Why is she here? What do you want with her?
The garden went still. Even the trees seemed to listen. Azura's calm returned, as if it had never left, but something in her stance tightened. She did not answer. Rain whispered through the clearing, steady and insistent, yet the silence beneath it grew brittle, like ice stretched too thin. The question hung there, sharp and waiting. Azura only smiled. Dhalâra's restraint shattered.
What's the matter?
She hissed, stepping forward.
Nothing clever left to say.
Azura's eyes turned to her, suddenly burning with anger.
Mind your place, Dhalâra.
Dhalâra bared her teeth.
My place? You mean the one you shoved me into 30 years ago, when you made us follow you instead of Najera?
The name struck like a thrown blade. Azura's composure faltered, only for a second. Her jaw tightened. Her hands curled at her sides.
Enough of that,
the violet-faced priestess told Dhalâra, her voice snapping through the clearing like a whip. She fixed her gaze on Azura.
Answer my question, Azura. We deserve to know. Why do you want the girl?
Azura exhaled slowly. She glanced away, only briefly, then faced the council again. When she spoke, her words carried the weight of mountains.
Emilia var Lavenhugel is more than a girl. She is a child of the Abyss.
The words hit like a thunderclap. I didn't understand, but my body did. Beside me, Dhalâra sucked in a sharp breath. I felt her turn toward me, felt her disbelief like a shockwave against my skin. I couldn't look at her. I couldn't look anywhere but at Azura.
What does that even mean?
Dhalâra growled. Azura turned fully to face her.
It means her mother isn't truly her mother, not in the way you'd think. Natalia var Lavenhugel carried her, yes, but the child she bore did not come from her own flesh.
What do you mean?
The violet-faced high priestess said.
If not from her mother, then where does the girl come from?
From the Abyss.
The council stirred. A ripple of unease passed through the circle as they began to mumble amongst themselves.
That's impossible,
said another of the high priestesses, a gaunt figure with silver-threaded hair and a voice like cracked glass.
Is it? You all know the ancient legends. You know the tales of the Age of Myth. Children born not of flesh, but of divine will. Instruments of the gods.
And do you think the Grottian girl is one of them?
Said Horace spat.
I don't think.
Azura said.
I know. It was revealed to me by Raven Dural himself.
You lie,
said Horace snarled.
You're grasping at shadows, calling her some divine miracle. It's a desperate excuse, a cover for whatever obsession you've wrapped around this girl.
Azura didn't flinch.
When Emilia was 8 winters old, she climbed into the sea off the coast of Foxenberg. She thought swimming was a simple task. She was wrong. The current dragged her under. She drowned.
She drowned?
The violet-faced high priestess said.
Yes. That day, Emilia's life ended. And yet, she lives. She lives because something ancient awoke in her that day. Something primordial. Something demoral.
A wind stirred through the garden. It slipped between the crooked trees and coiled around my ankles, as if the garden itself had heard her words and drawn breath.
In dreams, I've seen Emilia die 1,000 times, and every time she touches the abyss and returns. She is no ordinary child. She is part of something greater, something the Erden have planned since the dawn of time.
This is madness.
One of the other high priestesses said.
Madness?
Azura echoed. In the bushes where I was hiding, my mind spun. I remembered the day Azura talked about. How the water closed over my head. How it pulled at my legs, dragging me down. The darkness swallowing me whole. And then, in the time that followed, Father having my handmaid and Anna executed. And then the horror, haunting me, sitting on my chest when I slept, pressing me down, her bug-like eyes staring into my soul. I told that story to Dhalâra once, ages ago. I hadn't told it to anyone else. Ever.
You're insane, Azura,
said Horus snapped.
What purpose could this girl possibly serve the Abyssal Ones?
Azura's gaze turned cold as stone.
Emilia var Lavenhugel is a vital thread in a tapestry woven across millennia. She is one piece of a design far older and vaster than any of us. The Erden have willed her presence, here, now, as part of their plan.
What plan?
To prevent the return of the Lamian gods.
The words struck like thunder, and once they faded, the garden fell into total silence.
As you know,
said Azura,
the Lamia were laid to rest at the end of the War of Dawn. But they're stirring. Should they wake from their slumber, death itself may die, and the world will drown in eternity. That future must not come to pass.
She sat up taller, her voice deepening with quiet conviction.
The prophecy foretells many things, events scattered across time, places, people. Emilia becoming High Priestess of the Forbidden Temple is but one piece of that puzzle, but it is a necessary one. And the gods have entrusted me with ensuring that she becomes just that, my successor. That is my sacred duty, and I will see it fulfilled.
The rain came harder now, pattering loud against stone and leaf and skin. Beside me, Dhalâra reached out and took my hand gently, almost hesitantly. I didn't move, didn't look at her. I couldn't. My eyes stayed locked on Azura, seated there upon a replica of Zaraven Dural's throne, though everything beyond her had begun to blur. My thoughts had no shape, no weight, just a quiet, spreading cold that started somewhere deep in my chest and leaked outward, down through my arms, into my fingertips. A child of the abyss. What did I even mean? This couldn't be. It wasn't true. I had nearly drowned when I was little, yes, but I hadn't died. I was alive. wasn't I? I'd woken days later in my chambers at Castle Lavenshuegel, the nurse hovering near my bedside. I'd cried. I'd slept. I'd lived. And yet, I couldn't stop shaking. The garden felt darker now. Not from the storm, not from the rain, but from something else. Something older. Something shifting under the skin of the world. Dhalâra's fingers tightened around mine. Still, I didn't look at her. I couldn't. Because part of me, some quiet, hidden part, was afraid that if I looked at her, saw the sincerity in her eyes, it might all turn out to be true.
We can continue this matter later,
said the violet-faced high priestess, looking up at Azura.
For now, I have another question for you. The girl, how did you bring her here? According to Orm Harem, the girl simply arrived in Blotseth by ship. Alone. No guards, no escort. A Grazian noblewoman traveling to Loch Lalesh without reason. How? From what we've gathered, she wasn't on any sort of diplomatic mission.
The question pierced the steady patter of rain. I froze, sharpening my ears. Azura leaned back on the throne, her expression unreadable, a mask of serene authority.
How indeed?
She made a deal with Reuben var Lavenshuegel,
said Sadhara.
Emilia's father.
What kind of deal?
The violet-faced high priestess asked.
The kind Imperials rarely refuse. A trade. 7 of my wardens, young, skilled, well-trained, to serve him in exchange for his only daughter.
The rain suddenly felt colder, sharper, each droplet against my skin like a pinprick. My father, trading me for soldiers. I nearly laughed. He was a cold man, yes, calculating, distant, but he also loved me, in his own way. I was his only child. Thank the gods I already knew that Azura was a liar.
I knew it!
Sadhara spat. She stepped closer to the throne.
You struck a bargain with an Imperial pig and handed him ash elves in return. And what do you think that swine's going to do with them, huh? You think he's going to...
Don't act righteous, Sadhara,
said Azura.
We all deal with the Imperials from time to time. It's a necessity. You do it too. Don't pretend you don't.
Sadhara hissed. This is ridiculous, I whispered, and Dhalâra turned to me. What? I was about to tell her how dreadfully stupid Azura's lie sounded. But then... a memory. The letter. Forgive me. My blood turned to ice. Forgive me. No. No! The rain around us thickened, each drop striking sharper, heavier, as if the garden itself was leaning in. Water slid down my hair, my collar, soaked through cloth already sodden. My heart kicked into a sprint. My breath caught, broke, came again too fast. Dhalâra squeezed my hand.
Emilia?
She whispered, alarm flickering through her voice. I shook my head, couldn't answer, couldn't look at her. The air felt thin, like it had been wrung of breath. My limbs grew heavy, sluggish, as though water were filling them from the inside. My breathing turned shallow, panicked. It felt like drowning all over again. Like being pulled under. Like dying. A child of the abyss. Dhalâra pulled me close, arms locking tight around my shoulders as rain streamed down us both.
Breathe, she whispered. You're okay. You're okay. Just breathe.
But I couldn't. The pressure kept building, inside my chest, behind my ribs, crushing, relentless, like deep water pressing in from every side. Forgive me. It couldn't be true. Father hadn't sent me here. Of course he hadn't. He hadn't given me away. It was a lie. A filthy lie. And yet, there, in the rain-drowned heart of the garden of rending rain, I felt something crack. It was loud. It was sharp. And it hurt. The garden's water ran everywhere. Down stone, through roots, over skin. And now it felt as though it was running through me as well. Flooding places I hadn't known could break. Tears pressed hot against the back of my eye. Everything Azura had said was impossible. Wasn't it? Finally, I turned to Dhalâra. Her eyes were wide, brimming with tears. It's not true, I whispered, my voice trembling. It's not. None of it. Do you understand? She didn't answer. Because she already knew. And now, as I looked into her eyes, I did too. The rain kept falling. The ground felt soft beneath me, unstable, as if the world itself was no more than a thin skin stretched over something vast, ancient, and coming to life.